How you doing, guys? Welcome to Let's Talk with Caleb Brown. Hey, this is going to be an interesting session today. I got my beautiful queen with me, Paige Brown, today. We're going to do something different. This is our first video in Let's Get to Know CB week. So it's just basically questions that my special guest are going to ask me as it pertains to myself. And I figured that would be a good thing to do before we start posting any videos or any topical videos. That way you guys can get a chance to get to know me and where I've been, where I've come from, what I've been through, and different things like that. So pretty much I'm just gonna kind of hand the keys to my wife and let her start. Going to knock this thing on out. Baby, you gonna say hi to the people?
Hi, people.
All right, so what you got for me, honey?
Let's do the first one. So, what is your favorite thing about being married?
What is my favorite thing about being married? I would have to say my favorite thing about being married would be number one, in the wintertime my bed's not cold. But to be serious, like on a more serious note, I think my biggest thing is I know going into the marriage, I knew that when I prayed about you being my wife, I knew what God said as it pertained to you and our marriage. And I knew every time, I would pray and ask God about, hey man, this young lady, she's beautiful, she's smart, she's intelligent. But we had our times where it was a little bit of a struggle, like most relationships at that point. And every time I would go to God and I say, Lord, man, like this is trying right here. Isn't marriage supposed to be heaven? Isn't it supposed to be bliss? But we were dating at that point. And the Lord would say, son, that's your wife. That's your bride. He said, I approve. I approve of her. And so, the biggest thing about being married is knowing that when I come home, I have somebody that's approved by God that's for me. You know what I mean? And we vibe, man.
We vibe.
We vibe, boo. We vibe, boo.
Okay, so do you think it's hard to get married and stay married during these times of being a millennial, as they say?
Do I think it's hard as a millennial to get married and stay married?
Yes.
I think it's harder to get married. And I say that because, number one, trying to find somebody that's not fully into themselves, but that kind of sees the marriage as the two becoming one. I think from the aspect as of a believer, you kind of get somebody who knows the word and know that marriage is not just about you. It's more so about us being on the same page and, personally becoming more like Christ. So if I'm becoming more like Christ, it's about love, And so, but I think with our society today, everything is like instant, and everything is about the show and the performance. Like Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, everything is about putting forth the show. And so, but I think with marriage is as our senior pastor, Dr. Victor Wynn says, this is for grown folk, it's for mature folk, and it's for people who serious about being with somebody and actually staying with them. You know what I mean? Being with them and actually being committed. So I do think it's a little bit harder to actually get married, especially when you have the mindset of getting married to stay married. But as far as staying married, from a believer aspect, I think it's I think if you truly follow the Bible and you truly follow the things of Christ, I do think it's easier to stay married than it is to get married. I do think that if you're a disciple of Jesus Christ and you're making sure that you're a servant to your spouse, that you make sure that you service them and you make sure that you put them first, not neglecting yourself, but you put them first and make sure that you tend to them and they're tending to you, then you get their 100% and they get yours. and at the same time, you guys are getting to know each other, you know, and you're making sure that it's not a self-centered marriage. It's more so of a us-centered marriage. But as an unbeliever, I think it's a little bit more challenging. You know, I think it's a little bit more chaotic. I would like to think because you know a lot of times you know you have the Instagrams and you have Facebook and you have just certain you leave yourself open to different opportunities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You leave yourself open to different avenues. Yeah, absolutely. And so you know, I do think it's more difficult from an unbeliever standpoint to stay married in this time.
Okay. Okay. So, what is your go-to song? The song that you have on repeat?
My go-to song. My go-to song. It depends. It depends. Like when I'm headed to work in the morning, I have this song by Caleb Mitchell. It's called "Get It." It's called "Get It," and I really like that song. You know, it kind of gets my day started. You know, so I think that's kind of like my go-to.
Okay.
Like anytime I'm gonna go and I'm trying to attack some or I'm trying to give it my all. That's kind of like my go-to. Caleb Mitchell, "Get It."
So what do you feel is your best quality?
My best quality? That's hard. I mean, I'm gonna let you, baby, be honest. I'm not really a self-centered person. Like I self-evaluate. I think you probably would be more apt to answer that question than I would. But if I was going to answer that question, I would say it's my loyalty. I'm a very loyal person. I don't like once you earn my loyalty, I mean you got it. And it's almost to a fault sometimes. You know, so if you ask me what is my biggest weakness, I would say my loyalty. You know what I mean? Because it's a twofold thing because like I'm with you. Like I'm with you. Like I mean you have to do some seriously damaging stuff to me in order for me to flake on you. You know what I mean? So I would say my loyalty.
I would agree. Your best qualities. Yeah. So what is your favorite thing about being a father?
Oh man, this is a good one. My favorite thing about being a father. You know what? This is the thing. You know, I would say from a believer. So I'm gonna give a believer standpoint and just straight from like CB, like my heart. From a believer standpoint, it helps me to see what God goes through a lot of times with us. So like with dealing with my baby girl, it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of patience because you know Miley. She's very energetic. She's very inquisitive. Like she asks you questions. She's curious. I mean, and you know she has that only child syndrome. Like she believes if you have something, if I have something and mommy has something, then that means I should have something as well. So daddy can't have it and mommy can't have it and I don't have it. You know what I mean? And so it's teaching me that sometimes we have that mentality when it comes to God. It's like we see other people that have things. It's like, well, why can't I have it? You know, why don't I have this or why don't? And so it makes me see things. If I can say this, YouTube, Facebook, don't get mad at me. It helps me to see things sometimes from God's perspective, as it pertains to me. And I don't want to say us because I don't know but as it pertains to me, because when we mess up a lot of the times, it's like, dog, is this what God, you know, like, man, he has to be like super patient with us. He has to be like super loving, super kind. Like, think about the moments when, you know, you were out doing dumb stuff. And like God gave you instructions. Mm-hmm. He gave you directions and you just simply ignored it. You know, because you were fearful or you couldn't see the whole picture. You could only see a little bit of it. And so I would say it helps me to see things from God's perspective. But at the same time, just, you know, as a dad, just, you know, put my Minister Brown head off. Man, to see my beautiful baby girl every day, you know what I mean? Like to see you and her. I mean, to see myself in her, to see how she's growing and maturing, to see how she's changing, you know, Man, I love that part of it. I love the challenge of fathering her. You know, like the challenge of different moments. Every moment is a teaching moment. Like it really is. Every moment is a teaching moment. And she's been through some stuff with us.
Yeah, she has.
You know what I mean? For a 6-year old, she's been through some stuff. And I think that's what kind of make us so close. I think outward looking in, us three really we tight now. Like we tight. Like Mine have been through some stuff with us, and if I had one other than you, I mean, because I have this thing, YouTube, you'll hear me say this probably a lot. My wife, I don't consider her my best friend like that, and y'all listen to me now, because my wife is more than my best friend. There's not a word to express. Like, I can't put my wife on best friend level. It's beyond that. Now, if we just giving her a term like, yeah, she's my best friend. That's the person I talk to. That's the person I battle with. That's my best friend. But like, I don't even want her. I feel like it's demeaning to put you at best friend level. Like, heck no, you my queen. Like, you my ride or die. Like, this thing don't rock without you. The ship don't float. It don't float, baby. Me and Mila sink this thing. You know what I mean? And so, yeah.
Okay. So what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Shoot. The best piece of advice I've ever received. I think I'll say this. The one I remember the most.
Okay.
I think I gave this testimony when we were doing our marriage ministry, millennial marriage at Remnant Church. I think the biggest thing right now is, what do you do when your life doesn't meet your standard? So the biggest advice I got was while I was sitting on the steps at 1401 College Street. Yeah. And I was just complaining. And I remember my wife said to me, she was my girlfriend at that time. She said, and it was so loving, I didn't see it as loving then, but it was so loving. And she said to me, my babe, I don't mean anything by this. That's when you know something coming. I don't mean anything by this. She said, but, I mean, I've been hearing you complain for the last few months, but what are you going to do about it? I was like, ooh, snap. And I got mad, y'all. Shoot, I got mad. It hurt my pride. But I took that as advice. Either you going to complain about it, you're going to murmur about it, or you're going to get up and do something. Because at that moment, all I was doing was complaining because it wasn't going my way. And so I think that was my best piece of advice. That's something that I remember every day. Because we have opportunities throughout the day to seriously complain, especially during these times. But I think that's one of my best. I see that as advice.
Okay. Okay. So if you could have any animal, what would it be and why?
Oh, just a lighthearted one. Any animal. If I could have any animal, I would have a dog. I would have a German Rottweiler, right? And I would have that particular breed because I remember Eve. Mm-hmm. It was the dog when I met you, and Eve she liked me, but she liked me to a certain point when she first met me, and she was very protective of my wife. She was very, very protective of her, and I want somebody like that for Mila, for myself and you as well, but for Mila to grow up with and have through those years, I think that's a good thing, and so I would have a German a dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What was your favorite part of our wedding day?
Favorite part of our wedding day? You know what? Let me say that is a good one. The favorite part of our wedding day, I would have to say, is that, I don't take this, I'm going to explain it, is that it was short. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because I think that day it was very short and sweet. And because we didn't have all the reception and all the flower and all this different type of stuff going on, it made me really focus on what I was doing, like the vows and the commitment that I had just made, And so there wasn't the distraction of wedding reception and photos and all this different stuff going on. it was like we was at Remnant Church. Dr. Wynn had just did, all of, you take your, all of that. And it was like, boom, wedding. And then it was over. And then we had that car ride home. No reception. Car ride home. And I had just, it sunk in very quickly. Mm-hmm. That's your responsibility now, son. Like, ain't nothing else. You got to make it happen. So I would say that it was short. It helped me think about, like, the commitment I just made, or the vow I just took. Okay. So I would say that.
Okay. What was the first thing you thought when you held your daughter? The first thing that went through your head?
I would say the first thing that went through my head was wow. It was wow. It reminded me of the wedding day. And so now, here's the fruit of the wedding, right? But at the same time, and I'm sure this is probably most men's perspective, it was like, this is another responsibility. It's another privilege. It's another honor. But at the same time, this is something that I don't take lightly. This is for real, like, and this is mine. Like, she'll never not have daddy. Like I'll never have and she not have, And so in my head, it was just like, wow. Like, it's on. We if I was grinding before, I hate to say grinding. If I was flowing with God before, mm-hmm. to really be obedient in the hear in the I'm trying to hear the more. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to draw nearer the more because I can't afford to get it wrong. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, and I hate to say that might sound bad or whatever, but I mean being transparent. When you are a father and you realize that you are a head of a family, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that to say that I'm the boss or anything like that, because you know how it is. Like, mm-hmm. I consult you in everything. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's a mutual love. But when God approaches me in regards to the vision of the house, He usually speaks to me and He gives me a holistic plan. Mm-hmm. And then you can co-sign this. A lot of times He'll show you through a vision. You know what I mean? And so, we have to come together on that. But as the head, it's like I'm conscious of making sure that everything is approved. Okay. Because with marriage, it's that 3 core. So me, you, and then God. But if God is really orchestrating and running the show, then everything is peaceable and loving and kind and generous and patient, and there's long suffering and all those things. And that way you have a marriage that even though you do have trials, right? Even in the trials, there's peace that surpasses all understanding. So I would say that.
Okay. So last question.
Last question.
Okay. So what is the one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
One piece of advice I would give to my younger self. That's a good one. I would probably tell myself, don't take everything so serious. Like, don't lose sight of the objective. What's the point? What's the purpose? You know what I mean? Once you figure out purpose in life, once you figure out the objective, once you figure out what you're sent here to do at that particular time. So I would tell my younger self, find the purpose for this time. And then don't lose focus. Because the enemy is seeing distractions. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes at a young age, he'll send distractions in the form of money. He'll send distractions in the form of young ladies. He'll send distractions in the form of trials. You going through certain things, always constantly going through things. Yeah. And what'll happen is you'll find yourself getting in a depressive, almost oppressive state, almost a war is me state. my thing I would tell myself is never lose focus of the purpose that you're here to do or that you have. You know what I mean? And that way, there's always something to strive for. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So that's all of my questions for you today.
All of your questions, okay. I'm gonna ask you some questions. You mind?
Okay.
She didn't know I was gonna do this, y'all. She didn't know I was gonna do this. Okay. So about me, right? When you first met me, right? What was the first quality you noticed? So not our first date, but as time, what was the biggest quality that you noticed?
What stood out most to me was the fact that you, well, say when we were together, like physically together, you were a gentleman.
Okay.
And that's what stood out to me, because then I didn't see a lot of that, or any dates I had prior to, they lacked that quality. And as far as, let's say, conversating, you actually had something to talk about. You weren't...
What?
Yes. You actually had something to talk about. It just wasn't one frame or all about what you could get out of me, if you know what I mean. You actually had some conversation. You had depth. You had something to talk about.
Okay. This is going to be my last one. This is going to be my last one. We're going to end. All right. So I would say when we first got married. Okay, so YouTube, Facebook, I'm gonna say this to you. When I first proposed to my wife, there was 3 total proposals, right? The first 2, there was a strike 1, and then the second one, strike 2, right? And I had made up in my mind that strike 3, if it was gonna be strike 3, it was gonna be over. But that was my pride talking. But once I asked you that third time, what in your mind made it go from a no to a yes? Because I'm gonna give you some backstory on it. At this point, by the third proposal, we're 4 years in, right? Almost 4.5 years in, and I'm 22. Yeah, I'm 22, and I had just turned 22, and you're what, 20?
Well, it depends on... No, I was 20. Well, no, I was 20.
Yeah, you was 20.
Yes.
Because I was 23 when we got married.
And I was 20.
No, I was turning 23 when we got married, and you was turning 21, right?
Okay.
And so this is the thing. When I asked her, I was like, all right, Lord, well, here it is. I had my little ring. I had woke up. We went to 2 rivers on the bridge. The Lord set it up perfect. He threw that outlet. The sun was it was raising over the river. And I remember she had walked on ahead, and I was like, baby. And she turned around. She was awesome. And I was down on one knee. But the thing is, the third time, it kind of like clicked and was like, you know what? I think I can do this.
Okay, do you want me going down there through the proposals?
Go on down there through the proposals, baby.
Okay, so the first one, I don't remember what year that was, but the first one, honestly, at that point, I felt like you had nothing to offer me. By that, by what I mean by that is, okay, you weren't stable enough to go into a union.
Right.
At that point in time, we were still young and immature, and it just wasn't the right setting. Now, you were a great guy. Yes, I wanted to marry you, but things and timing were not right.
Right.
So the second time, I don't remember the second time. I just think maybe we were at odds with each other, and I have no idea. But the third time you proposed, like, I saw a change in you.
Yeah.
We had gone through some stuff. We both had matured. You were going in the right direction.
Yeah.
And that's what made me, okay, now, in my eyes, we are ready to get married. At that point. It was literally, I think by the time you were getting into church more so that time, or
yes.
I think it was just the changing of your mindset and how you function and just everything.
Right. Okay, guys, that's the end there. Hey, if you enjoyed that, like and subscribe this, okay? Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click that little bell, okay? That way you can get notifications whenever a video pops up. But subscribe, share the video, like it on Facebook, and make sure that you click that little bell. That way when we have future videos to pop up, you can be notified. Hey, man, I had fun today. And I enjoy having my bride on. Y'all gonna see her a lot because this is my boo thing, and we do this thing together. But I enjoyed this, and man, I'm gonna tell you something. We got a treat coming up. This week we're doing Get to Know CB, and so I got a special guest for next time. In order to see next time, hang around, subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you can be notified. Hey, love you guys.